Hi, everyone. I hope that you find yourself healthy and safe and sane-ish. I mean, that's as much as we can hope for a year into a pandemic today. I'm the co-founder of Modern Loss, which is a website and a community and a global movement that is focused on bringing people together who are all moving through the long arc of loss and grief. And of course, our hope is to eradicate the stigma surrounding the conversation. One of the things that I have noticed about our amazing community is what can happen when people have sudden access to each other, with very low touch mechanisms like online forums and groups. It sounds really silly and simple, but when you put people together who are going through adverse situations, especially ones that aren't really, acceptable to talk about or comfortable to talk about in casual conversation in real life, then you can really create very powerful connections, and you can really put people together to support each other and really pull each other through very dark times. And you can allow them to see examples of resilience and get access to ideas that they might otherwise not have. And, just really also have a place to scream into the cosmic void when they need it, which, let's be honest, we all need that sometimes. I am so glad to be a part of this conversation. This is the fourth Light After Loss episode that I am hosting for 1-800-Flowers. 1-800-Flowers has been an incredible partner of Modern Loss for the last few years. They are really a team that gets it. They are, of course, all about celebrations. They're all about celebrating all the good things in life, but they also know that if you're celebrating the good things in life with people who you really care about, the way that life goes is such that eventually some of those people are no longer going to be in your lives due to illness or death or estrangement or divorce or what have you. And so they are very aware that you need to talk about all facets of the human experience, not just the celebratory ones. I am so grateful today to be in conversation with Annmarie Giannino, who is a cancer survivor and a nationally renowned personality supporting cancer and suicide prevention. She is also the mother of 4 boys, so she's my hero. I'm barely getting by with 2, and somehow found the time to be one of IHadCancer.com's strongest ambassadors and focuses on connecting people to support each other during their fight. Annmarie is also the founder of Stupid Dumb Breast Cancer and What Would You Miss? And Annmarie, thank you. Welcome.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be here. And I think this conversation is important. I think it's something that people think about in the back of their head and sometimes are really scared to open up and talk about. And I also think it's completely human. And you were right in saying that, 1-800-Flowers has great celebrations, but there is acknowledgement to other things that we lose in our life. And it's not always death.
Yeah, now I would love to know, a little bit more about your personal background and your experience. Obviously you founded these amazing projects, and now you are also director of communities at Wisdo, which is a platform that helps people take on life's greatest challenges by equipping them with wisdom from those who have been there, which is a great idea. And it's what we do at Modern Loss, which is very grief and loss oriented. So Annmarie, can you tell me a little bit about why you're interested in this kind of work in the first place? Why did you personally see value in it?
Sure. To be honest with you, tragedy has been at my doorstep since I was quite young. My mother was killed when I was 1 year old. We did talk about her, but we didn't really talk about her death so much. It was tragic and traumatic. I've lost some really great friends in my life at a very young age. I'm a 2-time suicide survivor. I've had cancer twice, and I live with MS, and I live with depression, and I have a child who has debilitating OCD and another one who lives with bipolar. And I always wanted a mission-driven company. It was very, very important to me. And when I was diagnosed with cancer, I really started advocating and blogging, mostly because my family is super Italian and very nosy, and they needed to know every bit of my life. So blogging was really easy. I could tell them everything that was going on in one space. But then I realized how cathartic it was when somebody said, oh my gosh, I know exactly how you feel. I went through that exact same thing. And that's the beauty of connection. When you connect with someone who's been there, it's like they shed some light on you and they can lead the path for you. It may not be the same path you take, but it does show you that people have gone through it just like you. And if they've gone through it, then you can go through it and get through it together. And when I started working for Wisdo, that was the thing that just connected me. It was, all these different people connecting with each other from all walks of life, yet they all had the same thing in common. Maybe it was coping with loss. Maybe it was finding happiness or insomnia. We all had that same thread. And it's incredible when you can finally connect with people. And I remember when I started Stupid on Breast Cancer, I kept calling everyone that I connected with online my cyber friends. And then one day it dawned on me, I was like, these aren't cyber friends. These are friends. These are people so the way the internet is, and especially with the pandemic and everything we're going through, we have these great friends right in our computer that can help us get through some really dark, tough times. And, I think that's pretty incredible that we have this platform, especially right now.
Yeah, I mean, at Modern Loss, we run communities. We have an online publication. We're on all the social media platforms. We have a closed group and an open group. And what I have noticed over several years is that, the digital world can be very overwhelming and quite scary. Sometimes I think that we've seen over the last few years how, how much fear and how much danger can stem from online words and actions. However, when it comes to facing tough situations, trying to find a platform to connect with others about grief and loss and divorce and really, really hard situations that you might not have people immediately around you who either get it or who get it and are willing to talk to you about it in a way that's vulnerable and raw and candid and makes you feel really, truly seen and comfortable and acknowledged.
Right.
When you have access to something like that online, that's where I feel like the corner of the internet is going to save humanity. Like that's the corner that I believe in, because I've really seen meaningful connection come out of it. It feels like, when you get people together in online communities, even if it's like a group that you start, it could be, a group of 5 people that you start on your own. It could be thousands and thousands of people who are sharing all their stories and asking for advice. It's like you have this low touch way to ask people to bear witness to what you're going through. And by extension, you have like easy access to all these different points of view and suggestions and cultures and backgrounds that you might not have exposure to and might actually end up helping you, not like on a therapy level, on a peer-to-peer level, like hey, I've been there in a different way and this worked for me. Have you thought about it? It's just this amazing forum that you can be a part of. And also it's something where it's like, you don't even have to say that much. You can still feel like you're part of a community. Even if you never submit a comment in the chat, you can still feel like a part of something, right?
And there's a level of anonymity too. You can change your name on different platforms, and then you can really let your guard down and say the things that you've been wanting to say so desperately. You can't do that on every social media platform because your brother's following you, your cousin's following you, your father's following you. You can't always be authentic, and to be able to be in a space where you can say those things that, some people might find, wow, shocking. I can't believe you just said that. But the truth of it is when you say it out loud, it takes that one person to say, I know exactly how you feel. And, I'll talk, caregiving, there's a lot that goes into someone who's a care provider, a lot. And there can even be a little bit like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I cannot do this anymore. And guess what? That's okay. That is totally okay. It's hard work. But if you say that to the wrong person, you may get judged for it. And to be able to create spaces where you can say those things that are really troubling you is empowering. And, the internet is a scary place. We all know that. But used the right way, it can be a fantastic place.
So can you give me an example of your own about a meaningful connection that you made with a complete stranger in a forum like this and the impact that it had on you?
I could give you a list, but the one that really sticks out is when I was first diagnosed, I had friended a very young woman, and, we kind of she was a couple steps ahead of me in treatment and everything. And she guided me. And even though she was younger than me, I leaned on her. And then she was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer. And the last year of our friendship, she was declining. And it was a beautiful friendship. I drove to see her. I took her to the doctors. it was incredible. And before she died, she had said something to me, and she had said, be my voice. And I took it to heart. Like I get it. Like, she's not here anymore. So I have to be her voice. I have to keep advocating. And that's incredible. I mean, I seriously, as I'm talking, like, I could think of so many stories. I have children with mental health issues, and I reach out to my mental health community, hey, how do I get through this? How do I do this? And I feel like a bad mom sometimes because I'm screaming and yelling, and, he's emotional, and he has, mental health struggles. And one of my friends, who I barely even knew, but maybe a month, said to me, you are years ahead of where anyone was when I was close to being diagnosed. You're helping your child at 10, 11 years old. I didn't get any help till I was 18. So it's people that are comforting me that I never thought could comfort another human being, because I didn't know that those people existed. But those connections are pretty powerful. And it's really how you get through these difficult situations.
Yeah. And like, what does it do for you as you take it, you take these connections and you take some of the interactions that you have online, what kind of benefit can that have in the real world? I mean, it can really, create a ripple effect
For
where
sure.
you're able to better support somebody around you. And then you're having this impact on their experience with grief or adversity or, any caregiving, loneliness, anything that you might not have an idea of the full impact that you're going to have just by taking, the confidence and the care that you've gotten from these simple online interactions into the real world. You can really affect
100%.
change.
And I think it doesn't even take much online. It takes that one stranger who you don't even know to say, I know exactly what you're talking about. I have been there, because you don't feel alone. We live in this world where we want to fix people, and we want to, get rid of their pain, and none of that's real. Like, we can't fix anybody. People aren't fixable. Maybe we can adjust it, but we have to do that ourselves. It's not your job to do it. I have to do that. And you certainly can't take someone's pain away. That pain has been there for a really long time. And sometimes that pain helps us get through different situations. What you can do is just stand next to them and support them. And simply by telling someone, look, I've been there, that's all they need to hear.
Especially these days when, let's be honest, we're a year, 14, 15 months into
Yikes.
a global pandemic that is still not over. We are probably going to be dealing with a certain level of isolation when it comes to easy access to our normal in real life events for quite some time. A lot of our, grieving rites and rituals have been taken away from us, our memorial rituals, even our caregiving, the ability to just yesterday, my friend whose mother was in hospice said, it was so hard because she couldn't bring her toddler son to say goodbye to her mother in hospice because of all the restrictions, because of the pandemic. And so, like, we have been bottling up all of these feelings and experiences because we're still like flying by the seat of our pants with all of this stuff. We're still juggling, a lot of us, like schooling our kids at home, or maybe no childcare, maybe caregiving multiple people, and work, and like fear over the pandemic, and a long election cycle that we're still probably recovering from. So there's a lot going on here. And I think that it's really hard to just tell yourself, oh gosh, I think I need to create an actual space, like a mindful space for a half hour, an hour, even 10 minutes, just to like sit with what I'm going through and be in touch with like what I feel like I need, and feed that need. Because a lot of us, we're just going so quickly right now. There is very little leisure time. There's very little, coping mechanisms like brunch out with friends or like going to the gym. A lot of these have been taken away from us. So we have no choice but to try and embrace what we do have at our fingertips, which is why these communities, I mean, this is like not something that is a sales point for me. I'm somebody who runs an online community. I have seen it grow and thrive. I have seen people struggling with triggers that have come up over the course of the pandemic over old losses, old grief that's coming up anew. Their grief, takes on many facets throughout your journey, and you always need somebody to accompany you and to witness you, and just make you feel acknowledged. So,
and there's I know you and I talked about this, but there's no timeline here. At the beginning of the pandemic, everybody was cooking and making things and doing all these things at home. I was sitting at home like, when is this freaking going to end? Like, I was losing my mind, not because I was worried about it, but not because I wasn't worried about COVID. I felt claustrophobic, which is hilarious because I work from home. So it wasn't anything new to me. But then I watched it evolve, right? So everyone's busy in the beginning making all this food. And then by 6 months in, people started grieving. And it wasn't the loss of people who had died. And that was tragic enough, but it was losing their job, their freedom, their travel. My son was a senior at the beginning of pandemic and he lost his whole senior year. That's grief.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
100% grief. And, the matriarch of our family died in May, and it was the
Mm.
hardest thing my family had ever gone through. She was an incredibly beautiful human being, sweet as can be. And we're a tight family and we couldn't grieve together. And her death was tragic enough and well, sad. That's tragic isn't the word. She was 92 years old. She was older, but not being able to grieve together and grieve her properly made me so angry. And I was so upset about it. But if I said something about it to certain people, they would say, well, this is a pandemic. You can't get around people and you got to stay 6 feet. You got to wear. I'm like, I know all that. That's not what I'm saying to you. I'm saying I'm super, super sad because I just lost somebody and I can't be with my family who I need to be with. And I think acknowledging that grief looks different for everybody is super important.
Yeah. So tell me now, 1-800-Flowers has this really great thing going on that launched last year called Connection Communities, and it's powered by Wisdo.
Mm-hmm.
And you are the, director of communities at Wisdo. First, briefly, just tell me what Wisdo is, because it's a cool name, but doesn't say much.
So Wisdo is the place where you can connect with people who have been exactly where you are in your shoes. It's a place where it's safe. You can let your guard down. You can be who you need to be. And you can also just simply hear from someone else that they've been there. And I can't stress enough how important that is. It's a beautiful community. We have, so many different communities built into it, but 800 Flowers and Wisdo, I think we have 8 communities together. Coping with loss is one of them, which is important. It's important to be able to talk about that in a safe space. And in that group, we will see everything from, losing a loved one to losing a pet to, to losing your job. There's so many levels of loss. And it's amazing to see people just connect with each other and sympathize in a real, genuine manner and be able to share your story, share it as raw and real as you want, and know that the person that's going to read that is just going to be there to listen.
And so when you go on to one of these, into one of these groups, do you have to use your full name? Like, how does that?
Nope, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I'm actually known as Mama Bear in the app. My name is not on there.
Oh,
my kids.
I bet everyone wants your wisdom. I want a Mama Bear wisdom.
Well, that name's been dubbed for me for a long time, and it felt right in the app. The community does look at me as like the mama. But you can make your name anything that you want. In your profile picture could be flowers. It doesn't have to be your face. The anonymity is what makes, I think, it so beautiful, is that you can share yourself and not worry about what people are thinking on the other side.
And so now 1-800-Flowers has partnered with Wisdo and is offering these connection communities it's housed on 1-800-Flowers.com, which it's really great because, it's like this amazing benefit to, going onto their website. I believe that you can get 6 months for free just by going to 1-800-Flowers.com/community. And after that, that's your jumping off point. We are all coping with loss right now. Like you said, all of us have lost something over the last year, and loss is like a really big umbrella definition. And at Modern Loss, when we talk about loss and grief at Modern Loss, we are very specifically talking about loss from a death loss. However, if it feels like a loss to you, we say that's a valid loss, because all of this is comparing apples to oranges. There is no grief Olympics. There is no grief hierarchy. If you feel like your own perspective is like, if you lost your job and that is deep grief, that is a very, very big loss to have to contend with. You don't have to compare yourself to somebody and say, well, I don't have it as bad as, Jane, her mom died from COVID. That's terrible too. But you also have a very valid loss that you have a right to make space for and talk through with people. Everybody needs to feel acknowledged in their grief, in their loss,
I could hug you right now.
Feel like they're healing.
That's like my sentence. I whenever somebody says, oh, well, you don't have it as worse as so-and-so, I'm like, you just invalidated how I'm feeling. Everyone is entitled to that feeling. And I loved grief hierarchy. That was like brilliant. I totally agree with you. I
There
love
isn't.
that.
But we're so bad. I mean, like, even I get into it. I'm not even trying to be like Yoda here. I still am like, oh, I don't have it. It's bad. Like, my friend just had a miscarriage and my parents died, but that goes against nature. It's terrible what happened to my friend, and I will be there for her. But it is also awful that my mom died and my dad died very close apart. All of these things are they demand respect, and they demand introspection, and they demand love and care. It's the only way to move through the experience. If not, you're just going to feel like you smushed it all into a tiny little box and like are not dealing with it. That's
Yeah.
why I really love the connection communities idea. And what I've seen at Modern Loss is, you can enter into this world, and sometimes you might need it more. You might need to lean on it a little
Sure.
more around, say Mother's Day is looming, or somebody's birthday is looming and they've died and you're having a tough time, or you're in the coping with anxiety community. And that is like, sometimes your anxiety might go up. Maybe you got your vaccine and you're feeling a little better. But it is so nice to know that you have these like friends, like these support mechanisms, just as an additive. It's not everything, but it's an amazingly powerful additive to your support system.
Yeah, I call it a tool in my toolbox. So in the mental
Mm.
health world, we're always looking for tools to add to our toolbox, because the truth of it is you do have to rotate them. You may do box breathing for anxiety, and that might not work today because you didn't hit it at the right time. Maybe you try some grounding. The point is practicing those tools that are in your toolbox on a daily. So being able to come into a community where you daily can pop in and just say, hey, how you doing? When you're feeling really good, makes it so much easier to come in when you're not having a good day. It's just,
Mhm.
that's therapy 101. And again, stuff we really don't want to talk about. We don't really want to talk about that. We go to therapy. The issue isn't going to therapy. The issue is doing the work after therapy. And part of the work is adding to your toolbox. And I've always said that Wisdo is just a tool in your toolbox.
Yeah, one of my good friends, Emily, she always says she's a very like wonderful. Everyone needs a tough love friend, and she's my tough love friend. And whenever I'm having a really really hard time and I don't know what to do, like I don't know like what the first step is, she says resource yourself, and it's so great because it reminds me that like I don't really have to empower myself. I have the power inside of me. I have the ability inside of me to resource myself. Think about like, what do I really need? Do I need to talk to somebody about this? Do I just need to feel like I'm part of another conversation?
Right.
What do I need? And I think that when you're part of these communities, then you get better at figuring out what you do need and how you can fill those needs, because you get access to how everybody else is doing it or how they're struggling with doing it.
Absolutely. And
It's
what
just,
might
and you
work.
get educated. Like it's like an education. It's an education and empathy for you. You get like an honorary doctorate in empathy.
I love that. And what might work for you might work for me. And I never thought to try it. So I think it's really important to be in communities like this where you can connect with other people and find little tools and tricks that have helped other people, and maybe they'll work for you.
Absolutely. Well, Annmarie, thank you so much for talking
Absolutely.
to me this afternoon about all of this amazing work. I think you're a phenomenal human being.
Well, I adore you as well. I've been following Modern Loss for a while, so I was super excited to do this.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for all the work you're doing managing these amazing connection communities on 1-800-Flowers.com. And for anybody who's watching, they have this amazing thing. It's a win-win. You can get 6 free months of access to all of these communities by going to 1-800-Flowers.com/connection-communities. And I'm sure that's going to be linked somewhere so that you don't have to like jot that down with a pen because you're watching this online. Well, thank you so much again. Thanks for tuning into Light
Welcome.
After Loss.